Okay, greetings and welcome. Hopefully you can see me okay, which yes, okay, it looks like we're on. Um, Welcome to another Pan-African Community News broadcast. It's the 5th of June 2022. Hoping you can hear me okay. If someone can give us a mic check, that would be fantastic to just let us know that the audio is coming through okay. I'm in the studio solo at the moment. Sister Oleander should be joining in a couple of minutes, so a sound check would be good. If anyone can send a quick message. I'm assuming you can hear me okay. I have no idea. I think I can see Sister Oleander about to join us in a few minutes. Maybe she can let me know if she can hear us okay, but it'd be good if any of you are there. And then I'll just start the program. 1, 2, 1, 2. No? Sister Oleander, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Excellent. Okay, well, it's good to have you here. Greetings, everyone. So this is another edition of Pan-African Community News. So hopefully you can hear us online okay. I'm going to go through the news as we do over the last couple of weeks, and it's from a Pan-African perspective. There's quite a lot to go through, so please bear with me. This is going to be the last program for a little while.
Sorry, and just to say, Angie has just confirmed she can hear us.
Oh, excellent. Thank you, Angie. Much appreciated. Okay, so I'm going to start with, the first part of the program, as we usually do, is the remembrance section. So the first, this is quite tragic because this actually just happened today. This was a remember for the poet, novelist, and essayist George Lamming, who passed away today. Now, the Bajan writer was published in the magazine BIM. In 1951, he became a broadcaster for the BBC Colonial Service. But I think what many people remember about him was the most humble way that he used to fuse together our culture, our politics. He had a keen awareness, a keen understanding of our condition. So our elder joined the ancestors at the age of 94, and we can only hope and we know that they will be pleased with his work. The next remembrance is a bitter one. I'm not even going to say bittersweet, because it's the passing of Breonna Taylor. Now, she didn't pass today. That would have been in March 2020, but today she would have been 29. And for those of you who don't remember, in March 2020, police officers fired rounds into a house and murdered her. Since then, 2 of the officers involved lost their jobs. There's now been a new police chief, and they've also set up this civilian review board, which is looking into the police department's disciplinary cases. But none of that brings back our beautiful sister, Breonna Taylor. And this is a Pan-African program, so it's always important to remember that we don't just deal with issues in the UK. We deal with issues from a UK perspective. We're missing a lot of stories from mainland Europe, unfortunately, but we focus on the UK, but we still cover these kind of remembrance events. So that's Breonna Taylor. The next we remember, it's a bit early. It will be the 14th of June, which will be in a couple of weeks' time, but it's a week and a bit's time, isn't it? But then will be the 5th anniversary of the Grenfell massacre. And so because we won't be on air when that takes place, I thought it's probably a good idea just to kind of like remember in advance the 72 plus who lost their lives. And there is this remembrance, kind of like a display at the Westfield Shopping Centre. So those of you who live in that area, are welcome to go and check it out. Justice hasn't been achieved. The inquiry I think it's coming close to the final stages. It's 5 years. I still remember it like yesterday. So we remember, and I think that this year, if I'll talk about that later on this year, there's going to be a return of the silent walks. But I'll talk about that later. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next section. Just to remind you that you're listening to and watching the Pan-African Community News Network. It's the 5th of June 2022. I'm in the studio, myself and the wonderful Sister Oleander, and we're just going through community news as it occurred over the last couple of weeks. So I'm going to start with the first story, and that's a tragic one, which you might have heard today, of a man, I think he's in his 40s, who's actually now passed away after being tasered by the police on Chelsea Bridge. And I say falling into the River Thames. It wasn't quite he fell, he ran and jumped trying to escape the torture. And he died. This happened yesterday. Now, I don't know if you should watch the video. I'm not playing the video. I don't play videos on this program. We might change it in the future, but I'm not playing this video. I saw it last night, and it was. I didn't see it last night. I saw it this morning, and it's been just haunting me all day. It's a horrific case. The man. I can only relay the situation. The man. We don't know the backstory, so we don't know why the police was called to him. We don't know if he had mental health issues. We don't know anything. The man was tasered once, and he dropped a screwdriver. He didn't have a weapon, he had a screwdriver. He was tasered again, and this is because it looked like the police officer wanted to try and put cuffs on him, and he was still shaking and convulsing. He tried to compose himself, and then when the officer came to him, he seemed agitated again. So they tasered him again, completely unnecessarily, but they tasered him again. They'll justify that, and they've already justified it by saying that he couldn't be detained safely. And then the police officer tasered him again. And this is, when I say the police officer, I don't know if you can see the image there. It's actually an African police officer who's tasing the African man. And it's a really important lesson to learn from here, that it's not just the individuals. This is why it's so important that the police claim and own its problem of institutional racism, because it's not just the officer as an individual who's engaging in these violent acts. It's actually an individual who's been institutionalized, so he can actually see this man as the enemy. So he pumped this brother full of I think it's 50,000 volts maximum per shot, so it's 100,000 volts into his system. You could see him convulsing on the floor. His body was shaking. He was obviously, the officers were hoping to incapacitate him, but what they did was they essentially tortured him. They gave him so much pain and was shouting at him, "Be still, be still." The brother, when you see it, if you bother to see it, I don't know if you should, just ran. He just ran. The pain was so much, he ran, and he just tried to run away from those who were torturing him. Ran to the side of the bridge, and he jumped in. I say jumped in because it sounds like that. If I say jumped, I've got to be careful, because that gives the idea that he was acting rationally, that he was acting with thought and cognition, and it wasn't. He was running away from torture. It's kind of like, and I know people are going to say, "Oh, Toyin, did you have to go there?" But it really is. It's kind of like during those times of enslavement.
Sorry, Toyin. Angie's just written up there. Definitely institutional racism is horrific.
Definitely institutional racism. Definitely. And thank you for saying that, Sister Angie, because that's the point that people don't realise. It's not just the colour of someone's skin that causes the problem. That's why you don't hear me saying he's been attacked by the colour of his skin. What's happening? He's been attacked because he's an African, because he's seen as less than. That officer would not have tasered a European person. He wouldn't have, like 3 times. That'd be 150,000 volts through his body. He just wouldn't have done it. The first time would have been enough, and then the officers would have tried to de-escalate, tried talking to him, try and talk him down. This is the same thing we saw in Rashawn Charles when they murdered him in Hackney. This lack of de-escalation. But the officers, like I said, the police have already put out a statement that they couldn't detain him safely. So what I was just trying to say is that this brother ran for his life, just like we used to run during the times of enslavement, just like we used to run during colonialism. and he just wanted to get away from the violence. And unfortunately, he ran over the side of the bridge. He ran and fell into the River Thames, and he lost his life a few hours ago. It's really important to remember that, and this is why I say institutional, is that the rate of taser use by the Metropolitan Police is around 8 times higher when it's used against African people than European people. It's, if you're an African person being tasered by a police officer, you're more likely to be tasered for more than 5 seconds. So you can imagine that kind of voltage going through your body for 5 seconds. And then if you think about what we spoke about in last month's program, or a couple of weeks ago, Priti Patel, the Home Office, has actually authorized volunteer police officers to be armed with these tasers. So right now, the Metropolitan Police has around 7,000 officers with tasers. I think 5,000 of them are men, and I think it's less than 2,000 actually are women. But they want to have 3,000 more officers with tasers by the end of the year, or the end of next year, I should say, 2023. This is horrific. People seem to think that not having live ammunition in the hands of these racist police officers, and I did say racist police officers because I think that it was Afrophobia that led to him doing this. And of course, people will say we can't be racist against other people. What we can be racist against ourselves if we're institutionalized. I think what we've got to be careful now is because there has been a death, we're going to start seeing what I call respectability politics playing out. And when I say respectability politics, people will start saying, well, he had a screwdriver. They'll say he had a weapon, which was a screwdriver. They'll say he was violent. We don't know the story. I don't know the backstory. And I'm not going to say anything I don't know. I don't know how they got there. I don't know if the brother had mental health. I don't know why someone would be running down the street with a screwdriver in their hand. So something's not right. But what I saw was torture. What I saw was an officer using a taser against an unarmed man who clearly posed no threat to the officers, no threat to the public. And the action of that officer, regardless of whether he's a brother, led to that man losing his life. That's the facts. How they're going to try and rationalize it, the IOPC and all this kind of stuff about, he couldn't be detained safely and it posed a risk and it's superhuman strength is another issue. I'm going to move on because, like I said, I was kind of, it's really funny, I don't actually get triggered generally, but this one did something to me. And I've been up since 3 o'clock this morning. My wife will tell you I only had 3.5 hours sleep. I couldn't sleep once I saw this. So anyway, let's move on. So what else is happening in lovely Brexit Britain? Well, here we have the case of a young man. I say young man, he's basically a baby. He's 21 years of age. He's been locked up in a detention centre in Heathrow. And they're trying to deport him. There's twice now they're trying to deport him to Jamaica, not Rwanda. They're going to change that soon, I suspect. They keep getting foiled on this. Now, he's been living in the UK since he was 1. And again, when I say respectability politics, we've got to be mindful of this because he was caught on, dealing with drugs. So let me be clear about this. The Home Office is justified deporting guilty to 2 counts of drug possession, and he had the intention to supply, and they weren't, kind of just. But that's not the point here. The point I'm trying to make here is that what the article is saying is that he was 21 years of age. He's been locked up in Heathrow. He's only known the UK since the age of 1. He's unidentified in this particular story because he was a victim of trafficking, which the Home Office actually know. They've been treating him badly while being in detention. I mean, like not letting him wash or wear clean clothes for over four days. What else can I remember about this story? And so they've twice tried to deport him. They're going to try again. So, this is the case of the story. I wanted to include this, and I wanted to follow the last story because I want to make us cognizant of respectability politics. This was something that I remember Bill Cosby was very big on this, and there's quite many people in our community, often middle class members of the community, Some people would see me like that. I'm not, that's how they might see me. I'm working class, but people who feel, well, they didn't do anything wrong, then they wouldn't be in a situation. And they kind of miss the big picture. They kind of miss the picture that you don't actually have to do anything wrong to be faced with this level of Afrophobia, this level of aggression, this level of the state using its institutions to criminalize and dehumanize you. So, this is a story. We'll see what happens with this one, but I'll share. That's what I want to share on that one. The next story will helpfully provide you some context of why it's important to understand why, if we get engaged in respectability politics, we lose not just the logical high ground, but the moral high ground to talk about cases like the next story, which is the case of a 14-year-old boy who was stopped and searched recently while play fighting with his friends while he's on his way to guitar practice. Now, our young son, Caden, was playing with 4 friends outside Stratford Park, and the police saw them fighting, play fighting, 2 of them fighting, there's 4 of them, but just you saw, 2 of them fighting, and I say fighting, play fighting. They've known each other since primary school. And so they came up, they were on patrol, they came up and like, get on the ground. So pushed them down on the ground and handcuffed them. And so they assumed instantly that the African it was a mixed crowd. So I think there was, 4 Africans, 1 European, or was it 2 Europeans and 3 Africans? But either way, there's a video of the footage, and you can see the police officers didn't search the European, came up to them sympathetically asking if they were okay. They only searched and handcuffed the African children. Now, they were play fighting. Of course, the police didn't find anything because there's nothing to find. And now what's happened is that our young prince is so scared. His mother, Jacqueline Don, got a call from him and a text message saying that he's just petrified now after this stop and search encounter. Now, this is a 14-year-old boy. Now, his lived experience now is that he's playing with his friends on his way to guitar lesson practice. He's been singled out. His friends have been singled out. They've been handcuffed on the floor by police officers. The European child was actually treated as if there was, he was like a saint. So he was just let off. He knows he's innocent. And then he's also hearing of these other stories taking place in the region, where 21-year-olds are being deported even though having lived in the country since the age of 1, where a man is jumping over a bridge into the River Thames and losing his life, because he's been tasered 3 times with 50,000 volts each time, when he doesn't pose a threat to the public, to himself, or to the officers. 14, 21, and I think 42. I think it was in his early 40s. So I just wanted to share, this is the background of what's taking place in the UK in June 2022. So what is the government position on this, and what do they think they're doing? Well, the government position is clearly there is no racism in this country. We published the Creed reports, and institutional racism doesn't exist. These things are all in your mind. And better than that, what we're going to do now is we're going to have a 10-year plan on presenting a 10-year plan on mental well-being. And so there's a consultation taking place, and this is really interesting because it's a 12-week call for evidence, and it runs until the 7th of July, and up to date only 1% of our community, 1% of people of African heritage has contributed to this consultation. I haven't contributed to this consultation, and I'm a nerd. I'm the kind of guy that likes to read these things and then propose solutions. But I think what's happened is that we're fatigued. We know this government is a gaslighting government, and even if we give off our best intentions to these kind of consultation processes, which are just basically a waste of time, if I'm going to be honest with you, especially when they come from a government that produced the Creed report, or the sewage report, as it's known amongst the community. This 10-year plan has got nothing to do with us. because the very people who are damaging our mental well-being are the same people who are planning and proposing to put a new well-being plan in place. And I say that because last week we also found out there's actually this report that the Home Office commissioned about 30 years of racist immigration laws, where it's detailed by a historian, it's an unnamed historian. It's a 52-page report. I can't get a copy of it. I can't access it because the Home Office is censored it. They've done everything to make sure we can't see it. The Guardian, but one of the only people I know who've actually read it, but it's not been leaked, so we don't know. But what it reveals is that over the last 30 years, this government, and I say this government, it's also Labour government, but this government, the Tory government in particular, plus preceding governments, have all colluded in trying to reduce the number of people of African heritage in the UK, and they've used every tactic under the book. So we know about the Windrush scandal, but we don't know about how deliberate it was. That wasn't just one-off. It's been going on for years, decades. So, I thought I'd just share that story to provide a bit of a historical backdrop. Hopefully we'll get a copy of that.
Sorry, I just wanted to say that honestly, this to me isn't just another paper exercise. It's just another way for them to tick some boxes to say that they've consulted. These consultations don't mean anything, especially to our community. Most of our community don't trust any of these so-called consultations that look into the welfare of our people. They don't look into our welfare. Yeah. So I didn't know about it. And it just reminds me of the IPAD as well. The fact that, this so-called decade for people of our community, what did it do for us? So it's all the same for me. I just don't trust them. And I haven't seen, if the fact that you've said 1% only, it's not a surprise to me at all. It's really sad, really sad.
It is, unfortunately. And yes, I mean, this is the government that is scaling back on mental health provisions, that refuses to do the work that's required to make sure that police interactions with people from minority backgrounds, especially those with African heritage, are treated well, not treated like villains and criminals when families call for help and then they end up dead. I wouldn't be surprised if we find that there was a call for help that brother on the, I don't know. But often this is what happens. Family members hears of someone who's actually having a crisis. They call for help, and what happens? They might call the hospital, might call the police. They call the hospital might call the police. Either way, the police turn up, and then rather than helping, our family member ends up dead, or if anything, sectioned and then pumped full of drugs, which are so powerful that they never escape. They never become themselves ever again. And we know. I mean, we've been speaking about the case of David Olawale, so we know how long this has been going on for. Right, let me move to the next story. And this one, if I was to be mischievous and draw the link, I would say that actually, when we talk about mental well-being, it has an impact on us in ways that we can't even imagine. You see, there was a report by two organisations. There's the Forset Society, which is a gender equality charity, and the Runnymede Trust, which is what they call a race think tank. And they just found that there's institutional racism in all sectors of life, employment, public education, everything. And they did this report, which was called Broken Ladders, where they asked sort of the survey of around 2,000 African and Asian women in UK workplaces and said, kind of like, what's your experience? How do you, how does it manifest itself? And they found out, which was quite horrific, but it's not something we don't know, that, most of them, I say most of them because it was like 61% of them compared to 44% Europeans. So most of them found that women were changing their names, their languages, their hair, their clothes, the discussions, what topics they spoke about, their accents, anything to fit into the workplace. Now, this is only looking at women. And, I would say that this starts to attack your mental health when you just cannot be your authentic self in your workspace. I know what that feels like personally. It's a horrific situation where you're in a climate where your own well-being you know, your own security is under threat if you actually speak up. If you know, you're you. I'm not saying that I don't speak up, and I'm not saying that my particular workplace um, has squashed my authentic self. That's not happened yet, but the institution itself tries to. There was a recent conference at UCL, which was talking about academic freedom, and we know that when we talk about academic freedom, it's people from minority communities that have everything to lose because they want to shape the terms of debate, and they want to discuss how we could be more agreeable in the academy. And the panel consisted solely of European academics, doctors, professors. There was no one of African heritage on the panel. And you know, how can you have an academic debate? How can you have academic freedom when, you know, you're not even represented? Your voice isn't even heard. How can you do with that? So that's in my workspace, let alone other workspaces. So I say all this stuff is crazy making, for want of a better phrase. And so, you know, women changing their names and their accents. They found that particularly women of African heritage from the continent were changing their accents, as well as those from Asian continent. Yeah, it's just awful, and it's manifests itself in different ways. The most obvious one, which we've talked about over and over and over and over again, is the pressure on African women to comply to European beauty standards. And so in this particular story, there was a study of over 1,000 African women in the UK, and they found out that actually 97% actually, and this is, you know, after using it, have said to themselves, actually, we need to just ban some of these lightening products. That's another discussion. These hair straightener products that contain what they call lye. And lye is just sodium hydroxide. This is used to clean drains, but that's the stuff that's in hair straightener products, which actually burns the skin, and it's been related to causing breast cancer, hormonal imbalance, asthma, fibroids, even fertility problems. But yet, if we want to survive, if we want to get on, if we want some kind of security to look after our families, then we have to go to toxic workplaces. And part of going to toxic workplaces means essentially changing the way we look, the way we talk, all the things. And so again, having to use these kind of chemicals, which is actually causing us physical harm, and then dealing with the microaggressions that's causing us you know, mental harm, mentally damaging our well-being. These are real things. These are, you know, these manifestations are real. They have an impact on us. Let me move to the next story. I mean, this is a bizarre one, because this one is the story of Amir. Her name is Rose Martin. She just joined. You know, she just became mayor 9 days into the post. And then what's happened? She shared a racist WhatsApp post with, you know, kind of like, I say racist, I should say Afrophobic. I'm not going to repeat it. It's a stupid post of African people and Ukrainians. And now she's going around saying that her account was hacked. You know, she says, oh, it's WhatsApp, someone's hacked it. But what's happened is that the Tory party has actually suspended her. But that doesn't prevent her from continuing as the civic leader. She's going to be back. The Tory party just said, look, you know what you need to do? You need to do some diversity training. And and make an apology to the party. You know, that's it. And she'll be back. 6 months. This is the civic leader. This is the mayor. 9 days into post. And this is the problem when you have these snowy peaks. That's what they call them. Where you have, right at the top of leadership levels, you have people who have this sense of entitlement, who are just basically racist, who are Afrophobic. And they think once they're in that position, they can do what they want with impunity. Now, the only reason why this one's exposed is because she used it on WhatsApp, and hopefully somebody inside that group was ethically minded and leaked it. The Tory party don't really care. They really care. She won't just be suspended for 6 months. She'd lose that post. But this one is going to do diversity training and come back and then continue. In fact, I say come back. She's going to continue working as civic leader. 9 days into post. So what can we do about it? Well, there is an interesting project that's taking place, and this is run by this young brother called Efetibor Efemini. I hope I pronounced his name correctly. And I saw this in this article, which was headlining the fact that city firms are continuing to fail on diversity 2 years after their Black Lives Matter pledges. I don't even remember those blackout squares where all these big firms said they were going to do something, they're going to change things, it's going to be revolutionary. But well, right now they've forgotten. They've sent out all those lovely statements, all this, EDI work and stuff. But what has materially changed when I'm starting this broadcast with the story of 3 young people? We're going cross-generational, right? I spoke about in the last week's one about what's happened to elders who have been threatened with jail for playing dominoes too loudly. Now we have teenagers who are playing with their friends they've known from primary school on the way to guitar practice. We have, I mean, you can't make this up. But anyway, this project which this young brother is actually engaged in is quite interesting. I hope it's successful. It's a kind of reverse role modeling, not modeling. I've got to be careful with that. You see, I have a distinction between what I call role modeling and role modeling. I don't know this brother, so I'm going to be polite and assuming that he's role modeling, but it's reverse role modeling. So normally in role modeling, what you have is that you have an elder who actually kind of gives counsel to a younger person. But in this project, what he's doing is that he's 20 years of age, he's an economics student, and he's role modeling a 43-year-old insurance executive. This is someone in a real high-flying firm, and he's hoping that by having discussion with him about microaggressions and racism and all the things that he has to deal with, that actually his experience go up into the board and actually work that way around. I mean, much of it feels to me as though it's the same old, where those who are the victims of racism are doing all the labor to convince and to explain to those who are benefiting from those Afrophobic intentions, why they shouldn't do it. And for me, there's something perverse about that. But I know, I'm pretty sure it's a 20-year-old. I'm sure that when he joined the program, he's done with the right intentions. And maybe even the role reversal idea was actually made with the same kind of malice intended as well. But what it does, like I said, it puts the burden of labor on us again. It's us trying to convince someone else to change. But that's what's taking place. Who knows? Maybe this will work. It's worth a shot, right? I say that, but let's look at the next story, because if it doesn't work, this is what takes place. Yeah, Glencore, which is this multinational mining giant, has actually pled guilty, or is about to plead guilty, to around £20 million of bribery. I say in Africa in here, but they're pleading guilty to 7 counts of bribery in Africa. And it's a really strange story, because they are pleading guilty in UK courts, Brazilian courts, and US courts, but I noticed not in African courts. And so they're going to pay something of the sum of £1.2 billion to those separate jurisdictions. So Brazil, UK, US, nothing's going back to America. And what we know now is that they paid, I haven't got the figures here, but I think it was £1.2 million in bribes to officials in Nigeria to get preferential access to oil mining rights, and they did get that access. So if you think that they're paying 1.2 billion to kind of make this go away, because this is just it looks bad on their record, you've got to think about how much profit they're making. You've also got to think about, if they spent so much money bribing some corrupt officials in Nigeria, the people who are the victims aren't just the shareholders of Glencore. And I know this is a strange argument I'm making, but bear with me. But the people who are the victims are the Nigerian people themselves, the people who are in Nigeria. You see, because what's happening is that the very resource which should be providing them with financial security is actually being siphoned off through this corruption. And so that 1.2 billion should actually go to the people in Brazil. It should go to the people in Nigeria, in Africa, South Africa, all the places where Glencore has actually been and have agreed and accepted their guilty counts of bribery. But they're not going to do that. They're not going to pay that money to them. And so this is what happens. This is what happens when. That's why I like that last story about the mayor, because it kind of reminds us of what happens when we don't deal with this racism. It just gets bigger and bigger. The corruption gets worse and worse because they act with impunity and they think that they can buy themselves out of it. They can do some diversity training and it all goes away. But for us, the implications are far worse. Far, far worse. You see, I found out today, as I was going through the news and compiling this report for you, this program for you, that 31 people just died at the King's Assembly Church in Nigeria, in southern Nigeria, Yanagawa. I didn't even know of a place called Yanagawa in Nigeria, unfortunately. And I was desperately trying to find out more information about this story, but it was really, really difficult. Everything just said, in fact, what all the articles were saying was that 31 died in stampede. And I have issues with that because this Afrophobic use of language, stampede really equates to, as a word, it's really defined as a group of animals running, probably all in the same direction, or most likely in the same direction when they're frightened or excited. Stampede is not how you describe a tragedy of 31 people dead at a church at an annual event called Shop for Free. There were hundreds of people. I eventually found an article, I think it was on Gulf News. I finally found an article that decided not to use the word stampede. All the Western Reuters, all of them used the word stampede. I finally found this article. And it had more detail. I still couldn't find the names of the 31 people who died because obviously their names don't matter, right? They're just Africans. They're not humans. 31 people died at a Shop for Free event, annual event, because they had nothing. So they were coming to see what they can get for free. The police actually even said that, people got there early because they're impatient and they started rushing. This is how this happened. I think the session was supposed to start at 9 or 10. They got there from 5 a.m. in the morning. That's how desperate they were. Nigeria is what population is it? Between 170 to 200 million people. But out of that, 60 million people live in poverty. 60 million people. That's almost the whole entire population of the UK. So they were at this church event, kind of like got panicked. They were wondering what's going on. And then this happened. So this is the impact. I'm really sorry. I mean, I've been talking. I forgot that you can't see me. This is the impact of those kind of bribery cases, when the resources that should go to the people on the ground get siphoned off into the pockets of executives and shareholders who live in the West, who just want profit for nothing. People die. And stories like this, where 31 people have died because they were queuing up and desperate to get some free food, free clothes. Basically, this is like the equivalent of not food, but a food and clothes bag for free. We don't even see it in the mainstream media. No, I'm not seeing this on any news channel whatsoever. It gets worse than that. The next story, this one, makes my... it's just been a horrible last couple of weeks, last couple of years, to be honest with you. This is a story of 11 babies dying in a fire in a neonatal ward in Senegal. Now, this hospital is a public hospital, publicly funded. But I say publicly funded. Public health experts are saying that actually it's underfunded, it's understaffed. And even though Senegal has the reputation of some of the best healthcare in Africa, their capacities have been so stretched by the COVID-19 pandemic that what happens if they've not been able to kind of like make sure they can comply with all the health and safety regulations. People in the West kind of like make jokes about health and safety. Well, when health and safety is ignored, People die, babies die, and within the last couple of days, the last few, I mean, this program takes place every 2 weeks, right? 11 babies died in a fire. 11. I don't even know their names because nobody's felt it's worthy of reporting their names. Did you see this on the news? Any idea? Just 11 babies died in a fire, neonatal war. And in Senegal, like I said, this happened last April. 4 babies died. Similar circumstances. Not enough funding, not enough staffing because of the stretches of resources caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the Senegalese president, Macky Sall, he said that there's going to be 3 days of national mourning. In the UK, I don't think there's been even 1 second of national mourning. I don't think people even know about these things taking place around the world. That's why dealing with Afrophobia, that's why I don't like to just say racism this, racism that. Actually, it's Afrophobia. It's racism that targets people of African heritage specifically on every single level. You're watching the Pan-African Community News Network. Meet your host, Dr. Toyin Agbetu. And I'm just going through some of the news of the last 14 days. So what can we do? We just keep doing the work as we're doing. Next story is that of the launch of a new organization called the Black Equity Organization, BEO. It's been set up to dismantle systemic racism in the UK. Well done, Jake. One of my friends, he's behind all this, working, doing his best. We don't agree on everything, but I know he's doing this with the best of intentions, and I wish him every success. The trustees behind this organization, Karen Blackett, Kwame Kwame, David Sugar, Vivian Hunt. I think the elephant in the room is David Lammy. I'm not going to say much about that. The organization is actually modeled on the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. That's the NAACP. In the United States, we tend to have a habit of doing that, seeing something in America, not recognizing it hasn't worked in America, and then importing it over here for a different outcome. Let's hope we do something a bit different. I mean, because the NAACP, they still call themselves NAACP. They still use the acronym of colored people. They haven't renamed or anything. That was founded in 1809, and it was founded by a mixture of African and European people. So let's hope we learn from the mistakes, even though some people don't think that's mistakes because they like respectability politics. So the BEO is being backed by Sky, several law firms, community advocates, trustees. There's some great people in there. Michelle Daly, who fights for rights of people who are disabled. There's some strange ones like Sihopen Adams. She's the co-founder of Conservatives Against Racism for Equality. Some people argue that this is bipartisan. It doesn't matter if you're Labour, it doesn't matter if you're Conservative. You can all be part of the organisation fighting for justice for African people. I kind of disagree with that one, but like I said, I wish this the very best. We need more organisations working to fight against institutionalised Afrophobia and racism, not less. And so, I just thought I'd announce that. Well done with the launch. It was a nice event. This is a strange outcome. This is quite a good one in many ways. This was the Quakers. The Quakers met at their friend's house in Euston Road, and they made this declaration that they're going to make reparation for African enslavement, colonialism, and the economic exploitation of African people. That's really interesting. I mean, they're going to look at all their resources, see what they can do, and they're going to try and see what difference can they make. And it's really interesting that they're doing this. Quakers, radical Christians in many ways. They met around 1,000 people online and at the friend's house. I think they were motivated by reports of internal racism against other Quakers. So there were Quakers who are of African heritage, and they faced Afrophobia inside the Quakers, so they wanted to kind of deal with that. And they also listened to evidence about the involvement of Quakers in the 18th and 19th century who were involved in the Ma'afa. So they've made this determination they're going to do something about it, which is very interesting because we can see that the royal family certainly isn't doing anything about it. And they've been running around the world, the Caribbean, pretending that all is well in the so-called Commonwealth. And this is a strange one for me to close the community news section. This one is a story. Sometimes I'm just amazed at how widespread racism goes. It even goes not just in the UK, not just across Europe or across the motherland, not just across the Caribbean or the Americas, reaches even into our imaginations in outer space. For those of you who are not into sci-fi, one of the most anticipated series in the sci-fi canon, Obi-Wan Kenobi, I'm watching, I'm enjoying it. It's actually hit the screens. I think it's episode 4 we're waiting for now. It comes out every Wednesday. And two lead characters, Ewan McGregor, who plays the Obi-Wan lead, is being chased by Reva, co-star Moses Ingram. And it's been a blast. I mean, it's like, good old-fashioned escapism. And Moses, she's playing a baddie. She's an inquisitor. Series is okay, it's fine, it's escapism. It's nice. Star Wars universe is diversified. Did this quite some time ago. Kind of like explained how the universe of trillions of beings will have people of different heritage. But the fandom for Star Wars is a bit toxic, and we saw this in 2020 when John Boyega had to come out and say, "Look, I faced this ridiculous amount of racism, and I'm the only member of Star Wars that was ever, faced this kind of abuse based on his ethnicity." Well, now he's been joined by our sister Moses Ingram, because the fans are out there tweeting, sending messages to her, everything, racist abuse about her. I'm not going to utter it. Some of it's just stupid things about diversity, tick box exercises and stuff like that. But it gets much worse. It's been so bad that Ewan McGregor said that he's sickened by it. And he makes this really good quote. There's like 20 million sentient species in the Star Wars galaxy. Don't choose to be a racist. And I think this is the first time I've heard a Hollywood actor actually mention racism directly. In this, they normally say, be nice, and but he's actually making it clear. Even in outer space, they can find space and time to kind of abuse us. So I just want to big up our sister Moses. She's doing a great job. Yeah, I'm going to close this section, and we'll go to the next part of the program, where we talk about community events and reviews. You have a sip of water. So you're watching Pan-African Community News Network. I'm in the studio, the wonderful Sister Oleander. I don't know if there are any messages. I don't know if we're still out there. Is anyone watching? If they all abandoned us? Have I slated Star Wars so much that we've?
No, I think people are quite. Oh, here's one. Let's have a look. This one is from For Africa One. Greetings, Agali family. Giving thanks to Brother Toyin and Sister Oleander for your commitment and libication to this much-needed community service. Oh, give thanks. Willing you healing and health during your break. Oh, give thanks, brother or sister, for Africa One.
Much appreciated. Yes. So, yeah, we definitely need healing, because we say a break. I don't know the last time. It's really odd. I think as a fan, we tend to try to bounce between the Caribbean and the motherland, and you kind of like have to leave the UK to recharge. And because of the lockdown, we just haven't left for is it 3 years? I think what
Yep.
is it? Is it 3 or 4 years? I think we've been trapped here without
Yeah.
having been able to breathe, touch motherland soil or nothing. Yeah, so it is stressful, and I think many of us have found ourselves in similar situations. So give thanks for the message, but we've still got to keep going on, and for those of us who can't travel, we can virtually travel, and there are many different events taking place, some online, some in person. The good thing is that many of them are hybrid, and just a couple that I attended before. I'll tell you some of the ones that are coming up. So one of the
Sorry,
first ones
sorry,
I
Toyin.
oh
Angie
okay.
just said she's concentrating on listening. She's still here.
Give thanks, much appreciated. Um, and yeah, you know what? It's really odd because even though I'm talking as a camera in front of me, I'm so used to doing this on the radio program. That's another good point I should say to everyone, and I'll talk about this. The Legally website went down yesterday. The radio station went down yesterday. Was it yesterday? No, last week I should say. It was a few days ago. So Legally HQ is no more for the moment. It's probably not going to come back until the end of the year. Those of you who know, we're doing refurbishment on our home, so there is no Legally website, unfortunately. We've got all the information and we'll bring it back, but just in case, I'll try and see if I can put a stopgap up, which means the radio station is not online either as well. And so this is really the only way I can actually send stuff out. I can't even email everyone because our mail server's down. So even though I can still receive emails, we have a mailing list that goes out to 10,000 people, so you can't email that using normal software. And I refuse to pay MailChimp, which is I think they charge like £50 a month if you want to mail more than 2,000 people. So yeah, but anyway, enough about the ins and outs of that kind of work. I keep forgetting to change the screen so you can see me here. So it's like a radio station. I think it was a week ago, actually. It's all much of a blur. I was blessed to be able to achieve or to attend the book launch of the book Understanding and Managing Sophisticated Everyday Racism by one of my favorite doctors, Victor Shawami, who's at UCL. She was a godsend to me when it comes to me having someone who understood what we people go through. I'm talking about us of African heritage in the university spaces. She ran this amazing be it, God, I was going to use one of those silly acronyms, but it was called the BME support group. It was an informal gathering of PhD students of African heritage where we used to come together and just support each other every month. And she used to pay for it out of her own pocket, and it just kept us sane, right? That's all it did. It just kept us sane so we can make it through the other side. And I made it through the other side, so I owe her a debt that it goes beyond anything. She was an amazing woman, always looking after her students. So she launched a book with Reverend Carol Tomlin, and it's really about helping us understand how to deal with the everyday impact of race, racism, and various parts of race relations, not just in university, in life as well. So just want to big her up for doing that. It was a well-attended event, and it was lovely. It was done virtually and online as well, and yeah, that was cool. On the same day, I had to leave that one.
Sorry, now I was
Sis
just
Oleander?
going to say, just a time check. It's just after 8 o'clock.
Okay, so we're running a little over time, and we've still got a little bit way to go. Please give me at least 15 minutes. Because we've got quite a few events, and yeah, we're running over a little bit. I think we started around 5 or 10 minutes past, so we'll try and wrap it up quickly. And so the next, I'm so sure there was another one before then. Let me just double check. No, okay, the next one is not there. Okay, well, I know what I've done there. I made a mistake with this one. The Word Power Festival is actually going on now. That's why I put this one straight after, so I did it in date order. And I had to send you my apologies. This is one of the problems about not having our mail server. We can't send these kind of informations out. We rely very much on social media, and I'm awful with social media. You know, So this event's taking place now. I think there's an online link as well, but I'm not 100% sure. It's Return of Word Power, the International Black Literature Festival and Book Fair. It's got people like Mutabaruka, the amazing international dub poet. It's got Robin Walker, our brilliant scholar and history historian. Andrew Muhammad, the amazing brother Andrew Muhammad, the investigator. Lady Adelaide, Wayne B. Chandler, the spiritualist, and many, many more. Now, unfortunately, it's been running from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So it's finished now. I think it was at I think Grove Road Hall, but there is going to be an extra event taking place. That might be with Mutabaruka. I'm not 100% sure of the details. You'll have to go on to Eventbrite if you have a chance, so you can do that. I mean, if you can wait for like 10-15 minutes straight after here and check it out. And that's running from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. So that's going to be an extra, and I'm hoping it's online. I don't know. I'm just going to be honest with you. So if it's not online, then my apologies. But it was good to see Word Power was back, and that's the reason why I really wanted to share this with you. The second event that I attended, and this is why I moved the order, because I attended two events on the same day that Sister Victoria had her book launch. I attended the premiere of a new documentary by Professor Robert Beckford and Sister Sheila Marshall called After the Flood, and it was an amazing event. It was in Bloomsbury, one of these Bloomsbury, a church in Bloomsbury near where I work, and it was organised by a group called the Movement for Justice and Reconciliation. I want to give thanks to the Alton, I think it was Alton Bell and Sarah Jane, who all made me feel welcome and stuff. It was an amazing discussion. Great panelists, international panelists as well. So we had speakers from Barbados talking live. I can't remember, there was one from Haiti as well. But the main thing really was the screening of the documentary. If you get a chance, please check it out. This is actually a really honest documentary about the role the church played in supporting African enslavement and colonialism. It's generally focused on the enslavement era, and looking at the reconciliation debate, the work that the church has to do if it's serious about being a moral flag bearer. So it's a really interesting debate. Yours truly is actually in the documentary. I did an interview with them last year. It was quite shocking. I came a bit late because I was at the book launch, and I walked into a hero's welcome, which was quite flattering. It was quite nice. I was all sweaty, having cycled there like a lunatic to get there without disrespecting everyone. But it was cool. The debate. I missed the screening, but I've actually seen an early cut of it. But I know you can go to Vimeo and see the trailer. It's not like Ma'afa. It's not like the films that I make. It's a beautiful film the way it's done. It's completely, for those of you who like theology, you're going to love this one. But yes, so that was After the Flood. I want to big up Sister Sheila. It's an amazing piece of work, and Brother Robert Beckford as well. It's excellent. Next one I wanted to tell you about is an event that's taking place on Saturday. This is a free Zoom event between 2 to 6 p.m. It's an all-day online conference, and it's really going to be focused on highlighting the history and the stories and the works of Claudia James and Marcus Messiah Garvey in the context of British and global African history. There's going to be some amazing panelists giving some fantastic presentations. We're going to have Sister Nana Asante, Elder Cecil Gutsmore, Sister Tion Paris, and Brother Omawale Rupert M. Hamu. So, I mean, if you want to just take a refresher course on the relevance of Claude Jones and Marcus Garvey, or you want to come and learn for the first time, this is the place to go. It's going to be a free online event, and it's all day, so you can check in. But you had to go on Eventbrite again, just to get tickets, get details of the link. But that's taking place next Saturday, the 11th. On the same day, I think we spoke about this. There's going to be the event by Diane Abbott and Stand Up to Racism at Stonington School. And this is going to be the conference for the Black child. Like I said, I don't think it's going to have the same vibe as the legendary ones that Diane Abbott used to arrange in Queen Elizabeth Conference Centre. But this is going to be looking at the issue of child Q and racist police in our schools. What does that mean? What can be done? And again, you can get details of this on Eventbrite. It is actually a free event, but you can make a donation. I know there's going to be some good people going down there to discuss it, discuss these issues. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to be able to make it. I think Sister Oleander is going. Yes, please welcome. If you're interested in education and what we can do about it, then this is a conference there. And then if you want to learn more about Garvey and Claudia Jones, you have the session like earlier in the day. The next event is a commemorative one. And I think I spoke about this at the beginning of the program. This is, this is Dr. Grenfell Silent Walk. It's the 5th anniversary, taking place on Tuesday, the 14th of June, 2022. It starts at 6:30. I hadn't been during lockdown. Everything was paused off. I'm trying my best to make it, even if I had to cycle across London. There was this really, I don't want to say protest, it's a memorial. There's a very interesting memorial they did, which I thought was very good and poignant. Some of the members of the community hosted this Jubilee street party themed by Grenfell with 72 seats that were empty, to remind everyone that there's still no justice for them. I'm not really going to pontificate on the crassness of the Royal Jubilee, but I will say that if you can make it to the Notting Hill Methodist Church for the 5th anniversary of the Grenfell Silent Walk, I think the families will appreciate it. Wear something green to show we stand together in this fight. At the IPED Centre, Sister Oleander spoke about the International Decade for People of African Descent. Or those of you who've been watching the programme and following the gallery will know that I'm one of the directors at the centre. My colleagues have organised an event on the 16th of June. That's not next Thursday, it's the Thursday after, which is an open invitation for the candidates who have been shortlisted to become the next police commissioner of the Metropolitan Police to come down and meet some of the members of the community. And there's quite a lot of people who are going to be talking. So you can see Andy George from the National Black Metropolitan Police Association. No, I never get it right. The National Black Police Association is going to be there. Janet Hills, she's going to be as a community advocate and expertise. Jeremy Cook from BTEG, it's going to be Lester Holloway from The Voice, and Bola Johnson, who's from what's it called? IPOS. I can never remember all these acronyms. She's the chair now. That ISOB. That's it. ISOB. Janet Collins from the Crib. She's also an IPAD director like myself. Jermaine Jackman is also the chair of Black Men for Change and another director of the IPAD Centre. And the session's going to be chaired by the Jasper, who's the chair of, I think it's the Alliance for Police Accountability. So they had an event, if I remember correctly, I don't know if it was about a month ago. This is part 2. So you're welcome to come to the centre, but I think you have to book it. There's a link there, which you see online. It's taking place from 6:30, and it'll be at IPAD Centre. I'm not 100% sure I'm going to be there, but it should be a great discussion. And I think what else is there? This one brings a smiles to my face and great memories. Quality time is back. I used to take my children annually every year to the 100 Black Men of London's Quality Time. This is where fathers, uncles, all of us brothers used to jump on a coach and travel somewhere with our children, with our nephews, our nieces, our sons, our daughters, and just have a great day out, just bonding and chatting. Now, my babies are young adults. I'm not sure if they're going to want to hang with dad for a whole day when they've got loads of things to do on YouTube and Instagram. But for those of you who have still got young ones, I recommend that you check this out. The tickets are £20 for each young person, £30 for adults. That covers the cost of entrance into Adventure Island, which is where the team is going this year. I think everyone will be free. That's our cost. All the rides will be free. I should be saying after that. You just need to bring some cash for food, I think, just so young people can go out and buy what they want and stuff. But it's normally an amazing day. So if you're interested, type in that code, register your interest. 100 Black Men of London, Quality Time is back. Definitely one for your diaries. It's just a day about love. I loved them, and I had as much good a time bonding with my children as it was just chatting with other brothers who feel the same way. But we don't exist, right? African men who want to be good parents, who love their children, we don't exist in the media. Things are slowly changing, but so this was it manifested real, and so it was always amazing. Yeah. So I think one thing I would say, which is always gives me joke, is when we all meet at the meeting place at the coach, what happens is that all the mothers and everyone, there's nervousness. I don't know if they're faking it. There's nervousness as they leave all their children, our children, with us, and they're like, "Oh my God, are you going to be okay?" Packing all the bags, and have you got all the food? Have you got all this? Blah, blah, blah. Like we don't know what we're doing, right? Always.
Let me tell you, I remember those days, and honestly, it wasn't fake. The mothers were, like, are the babies going to come back fine? Is there going to be anything wrong? Are they going to get fed? Is there going to be any issues? I remember that very, very well. But the children always come back perfectly well. They had a lot of fun, and there's just no problem at all. In fact, I think it was really good. I remember leaving the place and thinking, oh, what am I going to do with myself now? I've got to find something really good to do. And I always found something really good to do. So it's great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the insight. We did suspect that some of you hooked up and went partying while we was out. Like, yeah, we're free. No children, no husbands, no boyfriends. So it's good to hear that. Okay, the next story. I say next story is the next event. Get it right, Toyin. It's another event. This one honoring Claudia Jones. This one is taking place on the 25th of June, 7:30 at the Battersea Arts Centre, and this one sounds like it's going to be amazing. I love the description. I'll read it out. It's a riot of storytelling with colour, sound, emotion, and audience participation, using a multitude of medium with innovative blends of drama, song, photography, and film. It sounds brilliant, and I know it's going to be great. You know why I know it's going to be great? Because Montana is going to be the lead actor. Montana Mascol, for those who don't know, she's an amazing actress. I met her for the first time she did a play in I think it was East End, West End, in Hackney Arcola, and I feel really guilty actually because she did an amazing performance in a film that I filmed all the footage, and I still haven't yet finished the editing for. So this film is like, we recorded it. Oh my gosh, is it that's probably 4 years now, because I think I did it before my PhD, and I still need to finish it. And so I'm hoping the script still rocks because the performances were amazing. And if anything, that would be my script writing, and But to hear that this is taking place and it's going to be just multimodal form of communication, there's no better way to bring alive the amazing story of Claudia Jones. For those of you who don't, in fact, I was going to tell you, about political activism and being a victim of the McCarthy era, the whole thing about being a communist and what she did, kind of like introducing the Notting Hill Carnival. But actually, just go check it out. I'm sure it's going to be amazing. Yeah, so that's taking place on the 25th of June. And then there's going to be an event which I love the vibe, just reading it again, the Black Heroes Virtual Soul Food Cafe. And it's just, again, just another session. This one's taking place every Friday. So if you don't know what to do while I'm missing from the program for a few weeks, every Friday you can check out this session organised by Tony Fairweather as part of the Wandsworth Heritage Festival. And it's going to be taking place 7:30 to 9 p.m. It's a free online event with singing, dancing, exercise, old school music videos, African history, books, spoken word, open mic, guest celebrity artists, and you. So they've described it's going to be a fun night. Community elders are actually welcome. So yeah, Virtual Soul Food Cafe, Friday night. Check it out. I'm curious. If I get a chance, I might even dip in and see while I go on. And I think the last session is the last event is those of you who you probably know you're working with us. It's our next Hackney ACT meeting, ACT, African Community Task Force. This is the community action group that's put together to address the issue of safeguarding following the awful atrocity and abuse of child queue in Hackney. The next session is taking place tomorrow, 6th of June, runs from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. If you're not on our list, if then please find it on YouTube, or not YouTube, find it on Twitter or Facebook, register, and you can join us online, or you can come actually to our meeting and get involved. We now have a name, we now have a logo, website's coming soon, and we're starting to run our community sessions, committee sessions, where we interview really the key stakeholders in the institutionalized safeguarding system and give it a community scrutiny. So that's the plan, and that's what we're doing. That's taking place tomorrow. I need to get some sleep tonight, or I'm not going to make it. But that's it. That's the community events and review session. So the last thing before we close down, I'm sorry if I've gone a bit over time. I know we've been running for an hour and 15 minutes, I think. Here's the section, my favorite section, which I call Community Champions. I've only got a few this week, so I'm going to start with Nadine White. That's who we celebrate. And she hasn't done anything different over the last couple of weeks, which is why I thought about putting her here. Nadine White, for those who don't know, is an independent. I say independent. She writes for the Independent. She deals with community issues, and she's just amazing. She's honest. She does really rigorous investigative journalism, rooted in her love for our community, and she is often attacked for truth speaking. I mean, recently I saw this again this morning. She made some comment about David Attenborough. She just reminded us of some comments he'd made about there's no point in giving aid to Africa or food relief to Africa because famines are nature's natural way of getting rid of people when there's too many on land, and all the kind of like little racist things that David Attenborough has said. People tend to forget that because they just love his documentaries. Just because people make good art doesn't mean that they're not Afrophobic. He's made more comments that are Afrophobic. And so she was attacked. I mean, they went crazy on her. I was horrified to see that. She just published an article just a couple of days ago about how the media coverage of the Platinum Jubilee has made her uncomfortable working in the media industry because basically she's been silenced on doing work
Toyin, sorry, Angie's just said, how dare Attenborough say that?
Well, this is the point. I mean, I'm 55, and I've seen David Attenborough on TV programs. I haven't seen all his programs, but I know who he is and everything like that all of my adult life. I never knew he said that stuff. And here's Nadine White putting this on Twitter. So she's taking this knowledge and putting it into a format which is where we are now. Because this is one of the problems with being an elder. We sometimes don't innovate at the same rate, and so we disconnect from our communities because we can't talk to them the same way. And so she's sharing it, and all of a sudden I'm finding this stuff is true. And he made these horrendous comments about African people, basically eugenicist. That's what it is, really. And so what people talk about him being the national treasure, and he's talking about climate change and all this kind of stuff, and the Green Plan and all sorts of stuff, we often forget that generation are the most Afrophobic, the most outrageous, disgusting human beings when it comes to. They care more about Africa's fauna, its animals, its landscape, than they do about the people. Their dream is of our continent to be stripped of all the people. If they could create a weapon that killed all the humans but left all the natural beauty, they would do it. Yeah. So, in fact, it's so funny. I say funny, but it's one of the only reasons why we're still standing. It's the only reason why we as a people are still on this earth. It's because Mother Africa herself protected us during enslavement times. What happened was that the enslavers, the European enslavers who came, couldn't survive on the continent. They would just die. They kept catching diseases, and their immune systems couldn't cope. And so they had to find colluders. They had to start importing and using weapons and all politics. So, yeah, David Attenborough, just another European who, unfortunately, we're learning more of as they reach their twilight ages.
The thing is, for me, that if they did somehow manage to be rid of all of Mama Africa's people, children, the animals wouldn't survive anyway, because it's been so many centuries that we've lived in harmony with nature and with the animals and with the plants and everything. And as hard as they try, and even if they somehow manage to keep things going, it just would never be the same. We'd never get the same beauty. The sunrises wouldn't be the same. Sunsets wouldn't be, it just wouldn't be. And we know that Africa is center of the world, and they do too, which is why they're still trying to grab it.
Well, that fella song is one of my favorites. It's a beautiful song, kind of invoking Pangea. But I think one of the things that we've also, I mean, you make a good point. I think one of the things we've also got to remember, however, is that a lot of African people, I mean, I spoke about bribery in one of the stories, have been infected by Western ideas of capitalism, greed, or placing profit before people. And a lot of us do the damage ourselves. A lot of us actually, I mean, you're right, the balance is still there between nature and humanity. And so that's why we still have some beautiful spaces and vistas, and there's an understanding that we need to live an ethical, more natural world, lifestyle. But I'm always scared. I'm always scared now of. I mean, I'm an anthropologist, right? So I mean, the power of culture, and I'm talking about the negative power of culture when we start importing these values. You're right. If African people weren't in the land, weren't conservationists, and weren't saying that these spaces are reserved for the ancestors, are reserved for this animal life, these are shrines over here, then what happens? Everything has become mining spaces. Everything has become crop, crop farmers. Just literally raping Mama Africa for profit, and that's the fear. But I suppose. No, I don't know. I'm just thinking about all those kind of things. Like I'm thinking about the hypocrisy of someone like David Attenborough, who goes around the world filming the most beautiful places of Africa and selling it on DVDs and streaming rights and stuff like that, having this contemptuous views for our people, and then there are people who help him and people like him do it. I say that because I know that there was a law being passed about to ban hunting. I think it was I'm not sure if it was Kenya, and there are African people opposing this hunting ban because they're saying that it's actually going to kill parts of the local economy of people who make money out of the hunting sports. When Europeans come to the motherland and actually kill some of our animals to take trophies back. So it's very complicated. Anyway,
yeah, for sport. Just to say, Angie's just said that's right. Apart from famines, are often European made, and Oleander, true.
Yeah.
So thank you, Angie.
Thank you. And yes, they are. They are, because there's enough food, there's enough resources to take care of every single human being on this planet. What we live in a world of greed, where people don't share, and we anyway. That's another program for another day. So thank you, Sister Angie, for sharing that. But the last story, and thank you for bearing with me. This is a bit over time, but seeing this as the last one for a while. The last story I want to celebrate, community champion, is that of Johanna Msimbuko. And I just want to go whoop, whoop, because our elder is 128.
Woo-hoo!
Now, she's most possibly the world's oldest person there are people looking to see if she should go into that Guinness Book of Records. I don't really care about all that stuff, but 128 years. I don't think people understand what that really means in beyond the numerical terms. But if you think about, we use terms like lived experience without really understanding what that means or how that works out. Think about our elder, Johanna. She was born in 1894. She has lived through colonialism by the British. She lived through apartheid by the British, by the Dutch. She has survived the 2 European civil wars. They call them world wars, but they're European civil wars. I mean, this is amazing kind of achievement. She's still standing. She has 50 grandchildren and great-grandchildren, still alive. She is the world's oldest woman. And what I loved is that I was reading the piece on her, and like, how did you make it? How did you survive? How did you get here? She goes, well, even though I eat a little bit of the new diets and stuff like these new modern foods, basically I survive on a combination of fresh milk and wild spinach. That's it. Milk and spinach. Just trying to keep it, simple. And she misses those simple days. There's this amazing story about locusts. When it was a locust, we talk about famines and locust plague and stuff like this. And this is what I love. This is why Sis Oleander, you're so right about our ability to balance. She said there was this famine, and the locusts were coming, and they had to deal with it. How did you solve this problem about your crop being eaten by these insects? Well, I mean, even though I'm a vegetarian, I don't eat meat, I don't eat flesh, I should say. What they did was that they found that some of the locusts were literally like meat, and so they ate some of them. They just ate them. And so they turned something that was naturally eating all the resources of the land and actually causing deaths into sustenance. And it's kind of like, I know it sounds strange, but these things are ingenious. You can't imagine it now because we're very precious. We're all squirmish about things like that. But she's 128 years of age. 128. 1894. That's after enslavement. I mean, there are some states that were still practicing, some nation states still practicing slavery at that time. That's in the heart of colonialism. You heard about the British monarch reaching, was it 94 or 90, whatever she is, with all the kind of like robotic limbs and artificial hearts and all the kind of stuff to keep her going and propping her up. Most people are saying she's not going to make it past 2023. We're not going to see it at the end of that year. But that's, I'm not going to wish bad on anyone. I mean, the monarchy has done so much evil in its time, but I don't want to personalize it. I'm talking about it as an institution. But let's close this program by celebrating good health, good life, good spirit, good vibes. So we celebrate Johanna. Merci beaucoup.
She's lived 2 lifetimes. Honestly, that's just so wonderful. Just to say also, we've got a couple of messages from Ajani Taylor. Thank you for your energy and rest well.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And thank you very much, Ligali, and Sister Oleander had to go. That's from Andrew.
Thank you both of you. Thank you both of you as well. And I'm hoping that you also rest and have productive times and kind of like don't get caught up in some of the negativity. Protect your space, protect your healing space. So, those of you who've just joined a bit late, you're probably hearing, people saying take time and rest. Well, that's because, we're going to take a break for a few months. We will be back. So keep the 11th of September in your diary. But just got to take some time off. I say time off. If you know me, time off, that means I'm still going to be working full steam ahead. But I'm still going to be doing the work. I'm still going to be researching, but I'm going to just ease off a little bit. But we will be back in September. I want to mix up the program. So any of you got ideas about what we can do? I think it'd be nice having some guests on the program. But the only issue about that is keeping the length tight. Do we want to have a tight half-hour program, a tight hour program, or do we like sometimes we stretch to an hour and a half? I mean, Still got to think those things out because it takes a lot of work to put it together. But you know, we've got a couple of months to think about that. I'm still available online. You can always drop me an email. You can join the ACT group if you're interested in safeguarding, you have expertise, or you want to deal with police brutality. I know my energy is a bit strange today because I didn't get any sleep. Like I said, I only had 3.5 hours sleep, 4 hours a day before then. I know it's not right. I've got to stop it, and I'm going to try and fix that. But today's also my father's Earth Day. He became an ancestor quite some time ago, 25 years ago when I was a young man. He is the Legali of Legali, is his name. That's how the organisation is named after him, Legali Agbetu. I love him as much now as I did when he walked this realm, and so I just wanted to big him up. Thank you. Ashe, brother. And I normally always close with 2 images of some of my spiritual role models, which are Malcolm, as you know, Malcolm man, but I understand the role of MLK, Martin Luther King, and the two of them are an amazing team. And also Sister Abiola Shola, who was my education mentor. She's the one who introduced me to education and community development. She became an ancestor way too early. I wish she was here to see me at UCL doing the work that she taught me, how to use the resources of the university to help our community. And I'm going to continue doing that. That's what I'll be doing. I'm going to be looking at how to do that even better and how to get some of that money out of those spaces into our community to do good. I want to thank Brother Colin from South Norwood. You've done some amazing research. As ever, you are one of the gems and giants of our community. I don't think people acknowledge the work that you do enough. There's a lot of people who've got big mouths in our community who talk a good game, but don't actually just get out and do the actual work. You're one of those who, we don't even know what you look like. I do, but obviously people don't know who you are, but we know who you are. I give thanks. There's also the sisters out there. I'm not going to name you because I know some of you make contributions to the research and you don't want your name. I think you should be up there. Your name should be there. Your pictures, all of you, so we can actually honor you. Because I always worry that what happens when we become ancestors and we transition, that people don't know that you exist, and you do. I can't do this all by myself. So I want to thank all of you Legali supporters, and of course those of you who are listening and supporting and sharing this news to the community. I want to thank you for doing the work and spreading the news. While we're gone, it'll be great if any of you can recommend. I keep forgetting to do this. This is old style thing. I need to remind everyone to get us more subscribers. We need 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, so I can broadcast live. So if I do decide to take a break with the family and leave these shores, I can just do this from my phone. If we could get some more subscriptions, that would be amazing. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to thank my family, obviously my beautiful wife Oleander, my loving friends and community, and I'm going to say as ever, be good, walk safe, be loving, be kind. Hope to see you along the Liberation Road, and may the ancestors continue to guide and protect us.
Can I just say, Toyin, before you land, a great big thank you to you too for all of your energy that you put out there to the community, for all those people who just really need your knowledge and your love and your respect and your, all the power that you bring to this forum. And our ancestors are very pleased with what you are doing. The support that I and your family and everybody gives you is because you absolutely deserve it and you need the rest. So I'm happy that you're going to take a break from this particular forum. But yes, I will encourage you in front of everybody to sleep, to just try and rest, please. We need you to come back fighting stronger. So that's all I wanted to say. So love, my king. Ashe.
That's it. Thank you. And Ashe.
Ashe.